Hey traders, Raghee here, and this is your free video for Simpler Futures. Today is May the 19th, and I'm going to take a look at the watch list. I'm actually going to go through the watch list that in the premium video I'll be discussing the setups for, but you're going to know what's on my radar going into next week, so let's just get to it. All right, so I do want to mention that as we go through this list, it's a mix of what I call Forextra futures and non-Forextra futures. Forextra is just kind of this term that I use for kind of this currency market pulse, and there are certain futures contracts that affect the currency's markets and vice versa. So that's one segment, that's one way I look at the market. The other is, looking at things like feeder cattle, live cattle, soybeans, things like that. I'm going to show you a weekly chart of cocoa. Those would be considered non-Forextra. So I do look at them differently, and I will make sure that when I do discuss the Forextra futures, and that's just a Ragheeism for, again, the fact that I'm still very much an active Forex trader. In fact, in the members area, you will see a corner, actually the currency corner, dedicated to what I'm still doing in the spot market with currencies, and also how you can play those with currency ETFs and with currency futures. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to start with the non-Forextra, and that actually brings me to some markets that I'm not in a lot, but they happen to be in some interesting levels, and that's live cattle and feeder cattle. So part of what so this is on my watch list, right? So what happens next? What does that mean, Rag? It's on your watch list. This means I still have to go figure out a few things, and I'll discuss this in the premium video. I still have to figure out the narrative. In other words, why did this market sell off? What's the narrative that we've had that's propelled this market down to this 121, 120 area? So one is narrative. The second is looking at simple things like, expiration. Sometimes I will notice these dramatic moves in front of expiration dates and things like that. So we'll take a look at any kind of expiration volatility we're seeing. The other thing that I want to take a look at is the volume. We will take a look at volume, and just to get an idea of what kind of volume we fell on. Okay, volume, open interest increases or decreases. COT data becomes interesting. It is Friday. One of the things that we will be doing going forward in Simpler Futures is I will be having a special report on COT. Okay. And then finally, I just want to make sure I'm recognizing the trends. And you'll notice that this is in an uptrend, and as is the weekly. The weekly's in an uptrend too. So what do I do with this? Well, I want to look for opportunities to swing by this market. We are in the zone. I'll get into details of all that in the premium video. Next chart I'm looking at, and again, you're getting my watch list with a whole lot of detail. Feeder cattle, doing a very similar thing, and I'll go through that same series of steps, just to get a feel for what's going on. Now, if this is a market like feeder cattle and live cattle, I'm not in these markets frequently. I'm not even scanning them all that often. They just happen to hit alert levels from time to time, and then I'm going to do a little bit of homework. I don't have to do these things with a 30-year or the dollar or crude or copper or the Nikkei or NASDAQ, which we're in with really nice wins, by the way. Nice follow through on those recent fills. But I don't have to do this kind of legwork that often because those are markets that I'm in and out of with a whole lot more frequency. I know the narrative. It affects my currencies markets and vice versa. So this kind of homework isn't frequent in those Forextra futures markets. So again, feeder cattle and live cattle, both on my radar for similar reasons: uptrend, pullback, and I want to look to see if there's an opportunity to get long. All right. Next, non-Forextra futures contract, beans. I had a lot of questions on beans after the sell-off. And I believe I mentioned in the free video or the premium that it's actually rolling into a zone between here, this breadcrumb low. What does breadcrumb mean? Simply where the market's been before. Think Hansel and Gretel, right? Let go of the dogma of trading and just use some common sense. When the market goes to a certain level and reacts, pay attention to that. Look at where the market goes and what it does when it gets there. So we entered what I believe was going to be a support zone, So this was support. And furthermore, I thought it was going to possibly be oversold, an oversold zone. Okay, we were supported here before, and then it's to know. So what I wanted to make sure that traders did not do was that they would look at this sell-off and then sell the very next day. We did close down near the lows, which made sense. It was a heavy close. It wasn't at the lows. It did retreat a little bit, but when we start to close right down near the lows, I want to wait for the next session to make sure we're not getting a tremendous amount of follow-through in that direction, a la what we saw in cotton. Okay, so you do want to be a little careful about this, especially with this kind of drop. But this kind of drop took us right into a support zone. Fantastic. Okay, so it's a support zone. It is oversold. We give it one extra session. In other words, we wait for the open after this sell-off to see whether or not we're punching down to lower lows or testing this 940-2 level in 2/8. That's what that is. I didn't like fractions in 4th grade, and I sure still don't like them now. But nonetheless, got to deal with them. Okay, next up is for extra cocoa. Cocoa, for me, the attention is on the weekly. This is an aggro level on the weekly that we've sold off from before at the 20 period simple. What I'm going to show you in the premium video is how I shop for options, because on weekly time frames, I like to look for options because I don't feel comfortable just shorting cocoa, and I'll show you the price movement ranges and such, because a longer term time frame like this, you need a different kind of risk tolerance. Now, for those of you that are thinking, yeah, I'm not crazy about that, Rog, what's my alternative? Look at an overbought zone. This is just the opposite of what we're talking about on soybeans. Look for an overbought zone in this area, just above 2100, basically 21 to 2200 in this area, overbought, and you can fade that. In other words, sell the rally into that zone, short sell on daily cocoa. So these are the non-4 extra. What's on my 4 extra list? That is the US. So I get a lot of questions. Rog, what's the Old Spice whistle we hear in your videos from time to time? That's my husband's text tone. That's what that is. All right, the 30-year. I'm short from 154. We'll probably get another shot at this. I'm looking for more commentary on the Fed's balance sheet. I'm looking for a gap close short. If this does not hold, I'll be looking for the next level up, which is closer to 155.5. But for now, this is an oversold, not a range extreme, not ideal, but it's slightly an aggro level. It's a gap close, short sell. The next level up would be right up in here. Okay, but for now, I'd like to see 154 hold. That's the US that we're in right now. Next is crude. I get a lot of questions on crude. I'm going to show you guys how we can navigate where we are in crude. I don't like the daily right now. It's not telling me a lot. But there's 2 ways I can handle this crude oil market when I'm uncertain of what the daily chart has in store. Sometimes I'll go to a longer term time frame. Other times I will retreat to a shorter term time frame. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'll show you how to do that in the premium video. Next up is copper. So again, I'm showing you guys what is on my watch list and the setups that I'm looking to take advantage of. Copper is knocking on the door of a level that I have wanted to fade. It's what I call a pressing validity short sell. We're right up against the 2.6 handle, the 2.6 handle. I think an area around 25990, 25980 could be a great place to short. It's got a very tight stop. You know, whether you short in this area or wait for a little bit of movement higher. By the way, remember I mentioned if a candle closes near its high or near its low, it closes strong. I will look for a little bit more oomph into this level, and that's what I'm looking for on Monday. And then I will look to set up a short sell in copper, a pressing validity short sell, meaning just on the other side of the 2.6 handle is going to be my stop. All right, so why is copper, by the way, a 4 extra contract? Because looking at copper and crude are two of the ways the market assesses the inflation picture. Okay. All right, I got a couple of currencies that are also on my radar. And by the way, you guys will notice that there's a currency corner in the members area, and that's where I do a deep dive into some of these currency stories. Euro yen, which also can be traded with the RYM contract, is setting up for some nice pullback buys. Why am I a bear in the yen? Because even though I have been short selling the Dow and taking advantage of some of these overbought levels in the Dow and even in the SPOOs, I am overall an equities bull, just not from current levels, right? So one of the things that I'm looking forward to is seeing more yen weakness. And by the way, you look back at a 1 month relative performance, there it is, okay? A couple other currencies on my watch list here as we wrap up this free video. The pound, we can play this through FXB or BP futures. This will be a nice swing buy going forward. In fact, the pound versus US is my preferred way of playing pound strength into the latter half of the year. Finally, I'm going to show you how I'm pricing out some options and playing the AD futures, which also could be FXA or the Aussie US spot. What are we doing with Aussie? Do we want to sell Aussie? Is it at an exhaustive level? And how can we set that up? I'll show you the trade in the next video, the premium video. So I hope you've enjoyed this free video where we're talking about the watch list. I gave you a lot of insight into the kind of strategies I want to employ to take advantage of the market trends that we're seeing. And yes, we are rebooting, revamping, relaunching Simpler Futures. Simpler Futures 2.0. I am happy to be along for the ride with you guys. So happy you guys are listening to these videos. Yeah, I run some longer free videos. No fluff here, gang. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next update.